So welcome to another Feature Fridays, and today I'm joined by Data and Jorg. So guys, do you want to just introduce yourselves? Jorg, perhaps you go first.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jörg Lev. I'm a technical product manager at VMware.
And Data?
Hi, this is Data. I'm the product manager for Tenant App.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. And my name is Guy Bartram, Director of Product Marketing. And today's Feature Friday, we're going through the new release of Tenant App 2.6, which is out the 29th of April. And this release brings some substantial new, highly awaited improvements, particularly around Cloud Director availability and NSX pricing, NSX-T capabilities. So, Jorg, let's just start with you for a bit. Could you just tell us, give us a brief recap around what Tenant App is all about and how it works and how it plays in Cloud Director?
Yeah, sure. So Tenant App is an additional component that connects vRealize operations and VMware Cloud Director. So in a service provider environment, you typically have different business model of either hosting some dedicated private cloud, so dedicated vCenter servers for your tenants, or a shared environment where you use Cloud Director to create some multi-tenant capabilities on top of that, and use the org VDCs and rent that out to your tenants. Now, Cloud Director obviously does all the automation to implement the deployment of virtual machines and a lot of the network automation. So it's a very easy way for you as a service provider to set up that environment and create a lot of self-service capabilities for your tenants. But when it comes to metering and chargeback, that's where vRealize operations comes in. vRealize operations, you install that in your management network, and then it connects to all the different components in your infrastructure stack. So to vSphere, to NSX, to VCD, and perhaps even to the physical resources like physical network switches or physical servers, and collects a lot of different metrics. And with vRealize operations, you can get for your day-to-day operations a lot of value to with alerting, custom dashboards, reports, and so on. But since we have all the consumption metrics in there, it's also the source for the Tenant App now to create some billing and chargeback on top of that.
Now, I know in previous versions, I think 2.5, we brought out custom reporting. So that was the ability to kind of start upselling those features within VCD, right?
Yeah, so that's the two main different purposes of the Tenant App. First of all, it allows you to create these so-called pricing policies for the different organization VDCs, where you specify some price tags for the consumed resources based on the different allocation models and the different business models that you might have. And then the Tenant App can automatically create the bills for these org VDCs. So that's the chargeback capabilities of the Tenant App. And then the second sort of big topic where Tenant App comes in really in this monitoring as a service, where as a service provider you can create custom reports, custom alerts, have some dashboards that are shown up in the Tenant App, and provide these to your tenants.
So does the tenant ever have to leave the VCD UI to access the extended reporting capabilities?
Yeah, so that's one feature of Tenant App is to publish this information, the bills, if you want to, but also the dashboards and the reports for downloads, and the metrics section for individual virtual machines or VApps, for example. It can publish this information into the Cloud Director tenant portal. So technically, it uses the same UI extensibility framework that we have for VCD, and the tenant user can just log into their tenant portal of Cloud Director, and then open up the operations tab, and then they get automatically logged into the Tenant App as well, and get the tenant view of their information. So they only see, of course, the dashboards related to their objects, their org VDCs, their VApps, and the bills that are being created for you. And as a provider, you can provider administrator, you can very fine-grained specify which information should be published into the tenant portal, depending on your business model. You want to directly show them the bills, for example. Sometimes you want to hide them because you automatically feed the data into some downstream billing system, for example.
Got it. Got it. So I know we've covered this before in a separate session some time back. I think it was before 2.5. But Jörg, in your experience, what is a good starting point for a service provider who's only just coming into this? How to start with Tenant App and how to kind of grow that portfolio of services?
Yeah, so the setup of Tenant App is pretty straightforward. You install the vApp, and then you connect it to vRealize operations, and you connect it to VCD, that the UI plugin and the UI integration works. And then you already get some out-of-the-box dashboards for the org VDCs and some first level of monitoring services for the individual virtual machine metrics. And you can also use or just start creating your pricing policies. And for that, there are different strategies available, of course, based on your different business model, based on location, based on configuration of the virtual machine, based on actual consumption. But it's very easy to start simple with the pricing policies, define just a few resources that you want to charge the tenants for, and then get familiar with all the pricing capabilities. They get, and I guess we will see that in the demo later, they get into a lot of different details, so you can go pretty specific on the pricing details and define prices based on metadata, do some overage charging, and you have a lot of options there. That was mainly based on feedback from service provider partners who have been using the Tenant App for a long time. And therefore, with these pricing policies, you can model a lot of different business functionality and business strategies into the pricing policy. So they might be a bit, or they might look like overwhelming at the beginning because there are like 12 or 13 different pages in the wizard. But you can start very easy and just create the price tags for the things that you really want to charge for the beginning.
And that's all inclusive, isn't it, in the Flex core that all providers have access to by default? That chargeback and showback function and the basic VDC metrics and monitoring within the Tenant App in VCD, that's all inclusive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
So if you haven't kind of looked at how to use vRealize operations in this way, or you've got VCD, this is a great start point to, I think, from my view, I look at it as if your customers are expecting sort of public cloud-like experience, and you're looking at charging per VM perhaps, or per t-shirt size or per resource pool, this gives you the ability then to provide that baseline monitoring and metering capability, which everyone's come to expect from a public cloud. Okay, thanks, Jörg. And so data, we're at 2.6. So Jörg's alluded to there being some additional capability and also some flexibility now around things like metadata tagging and stuff like that, and being able to charge for that. Should we dive into the detail then and find out what is in 2.6 release?
Yep, perfect. Let me start by sharing my screen. All right. Usually this is my starting point for presentation for any talk towards Tenant App. I think Jörg talked about it a while ago. I'll just cover this quickly because this is also important as we talk about Tenant App 2.6 features. This is the general deployment diagram, so to say, when we say Tenant App. Tenant App is made up of two major components. One is the Tenant App shell virtual appliance. The other is the vRops virtual appliance. Now, all the data collection from different endpoints, such as vCenter, vCloud Director, Cloud Director availability, all of these happen via the data collector piece of vRops that you see here. What Tenant App does is it acts as a front end to service provider to provide two key capabilities. One is it provides an API front end using which you can read all the collected data in the raw format, if you will, and feed it into your own billing systems. It in the second value add, it allows the service providers to configure pricing policies if you want to use this Tenant App itself as your billing system, which will basically crunch the numbers and create a dollar tag based on the usage of the VMs and other entities that are being collected by this data collector. The third and the important piece is it lets the service providers provide this tenant interface via the vCloud Director, wherein a tenant can log in and see either of this information, which is either the usage information or the billing information that the service provider has configured optionally. A provider can decide what are the pieces of information that he wants to expose to his tenants. So that's a three-pronged value add that Tenant App provides. In the previous releases, we have focused respectively. In one of the releases, the primary theme was expanding this first layer and covering as many services and usage as possible. In one of the other releases, our theme was expanding on the second layer of provider interface and provide flexible pricing. And as we move along, our goal has been to expand on these areas, cover as many services, and provide additional pricing flexibility as we go along. What we have done in 2.6 of Tenant App in that regard is we have expanded on the usage collection in some of our earlier releases related to vCloud Director availability and NSX-T. What we did in 2.6 is built on top of it to enhance this area of configuring pricing and billing for vCloud Director availability and NSX-T. And we also did some enhancements to the way we did pricing and billing to the native workloads such as VMs and made them more granular. So without delay, I'll just jump straight to the feature set that we have added for Tenant App 2.6. I'll jump through these slides. All right, here. So like I was saying, the three key pieces that we introduced was we introduced pricing. We enhanced our pricing umbrella for NSX-T based data transfer. We can also now price the services that are offered by Cloud Director availability. And then intricate pricing granularity, such as pricing for consumed storage along with the configured storage by the VMs, as well as now we cover VMs that have a very short life cycle, such as let's say VMs that are created and deleted within 5 minutes can now be metered and priced using Tenant App and the startup earring as part of the bills. So these are some of the key enhancements that we did in our product. Maybe I can stop here and take you straight to the demo instance.
So while you're bringing that up, I just have a question, which was kind of based on that initial slide that you put up. The API capabilities, you mentioned the ability to collect the raw data via API, but can you also collect the processed data, i.e. the data that's gone through the charging engine via the API?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I should have explicitly mentioned that. So you can also, the arrow that you see here on top, which says Suite APIs plus Bill APIs. Suite APIs is nothing but collecting raw usage data. Bill APIs provides you the access to the processed thing or the processed usage data as well.
And how long is that processed data maintained for? I guess is it maintained in vRealize operations for a duration or?
Right. So it is maintained in vRealize operations by default for a retention period of 2 years, if I remember right, and it is configurable on top of it. So that's something that you can adjust using the virtual appliance of vRops.
Okay, great. Good to know.
All right, let me bring up the demo instances. I will start with pricing for NSX-T based data transfer. For those who have seen Tenant App before, just to those who haven't seen Tenant App before, just to give you a quick idea of the distinctions that we talked about, right? All of these dashboards here will give you a quick overview into the usage and the bills that are charged against these individual elements. So this is my view as a provider, but as a tenant also you get to see a similar view filtered to your own objects. So for example, you can look at your organization overview, and as a tenant, you get to see only the organization VDCs that you are responsible for, what is their capacity, and so on and so forth. You can drill down deeper into individual org VDCs and see what is happening inside them individually, how many VMs are provisioned, and so on and so forth. So you can go on drilling deeper to analyze your usage information. There is also this notion of metric selector, where you can select individual resources and see a timeline of how a given metric is varying over a period of some time. So you have a VM that has been charged certain dollars, and you would want to understand why is it charged that much by analyzing its configuration or usage over a period of time. This gives you an opportunity to select that VM here and see their metrics over a period of time to understand your bill better. Similarly, there are alerts and reports that can be exposed by the service provider to the tenant, as well as can be used for his own consumption. These are the reports and alerts that are configured in vRops, can be made available via Tenant App to the tenants. And the basis of all of this is the configuration that the user does for pricing the infrastructure that he's exposing, right? So here is where we have added new functionalities in 2.6. So essentially what you do to price your infrastructure is create this thing called a pricing policy. So for now, I will create a new pricing policy called NSX, through which I would want to charge for the network related items. Again, just to give a quick overview, you can charge for different elements of your infrastructure from here, such as the CPU, memory, storage. You can charge them on different aspects, such as charging CPU for either vCPU count or the CPU gigahertz that is consumed by the VMs. You can decide to say, I want to make a daily charge, hourly, monthly, different constraints, whether it is only charge when it is powered on, or charge regardless of whether it is powered on or not. And several different pricing flexibilities are provided. All these are covered in detail in our white paper, which is available for download from our blogs. So that's something that I highly encourage everyone to go through and understand the different pricing elements that you can make use of to convert your business model into a pricing rate card that best fits your needs. Now, stepping into what we did in 2.6 specifically, right? So the first thing is NSX-T based pricing. Traditionally, Tenant App has been doing NSX-V based network service pricing all this while. So if your network is backed by NSX-V, it can track metrics such as the data that is flowing through the edge devices that you're creating in the cloud directive by talking to NSX-V, the bandwidth that is being used on these edge devices, the services that are enabled on these edge devices, and be able to charge for them. This is something that Tenant App is able to do even today, right from, I think, versions 2.1 or 2.2 of Tenant App, that old. What we added now is we have slowly started including the same set of services for NSX-T. The first step towards it is in the previous release, we started collecting data about the network data that is flowing through your edge device, which is backed by NSX-T. So any data in, data out that is flowing through an edge device mapped to a logical router on the NSX-T side is collected and summarized at an edge gateway level. And here you can come and set your rate card and say, for every MB, I want to charge a cent, right? When data transfer happens. So you can charge individually for transmit and receive, or you can give a combined charge. And then you can go ahead and save this pricing policy. At the end of it, what you will see is a bill. So once you've configured your pricing policy and created it, you can go ahead and generate a bill on an org VDC by applying that pricing policy. So when you say generate a new bill, what you do is you basically select a given organization VDC, and then you say which is the pricing policy that you would like to apply. and then you say finish by giving it a name, right? I have already pre-created a bill in this environment. Let's see. So this one. All right, let me come back to this side. I might be showing this from a different environment which has the bills. But importantly, what I wanted to show before that was this is the organization. So what I've done is I've now logged into the corresponding vRealize operations of this tenant app, right? And this vRealize operations is now showing the vCloud director hierarchy. What I did was I went ahead and searched for a specific organization VDC. And under this organization VDC, there is an edge device called this VCD102 new Acme Edge. Now, this is an NSX-T backed network. Therefore, it is connected to a logical router object that is collected by the NSX-T management pack. Now, because of this connection that we've created, what we are now able to do is publish network related metrics on this edge device itself. And these are the metrics that get used when when the charges are being applied on these edge device. So let's see, statistics, data in, data out. So these are two metrics that have been created on the edge device itself for an NSX-T backed network. And these get used when you define your pricing policy. This is the data on which your pricing actually happens. This is a 5-minute data collection. So every 5 minutes, there is a summary of how many bytes have flown through this edge gateway device in and out separately. This is what gets used. So you can either use this in a raw form to feed it into your own billing systems, or you can create the pricing policy in Tenant App and see the bills appearing in the Tenant App itself.
And the requirement for this, the base requirement for this is to deploy the NSX-T management pack, right?
That is correct, yes. So NSX-T management pack is natively available with vRops. You don't have to install it externally. You just have to configure it with the right endpoint of NSX-T, and you have this data collection going.
Got it.
All right. So that's on the NSX-T side of things. The next big thing that we did in this release was related to replications from Cloud Director availability. Again, I'll start my story from vRops. So here, what I'm showing you is an instance of vRops which is connected to Cloud Director availability, similar to the NSX-T management pack that we talked about. There is a management pack dedicated to Cloud Director availability, which should be installed on vRops from outside. It's not a native management pack, so you'll have to go to the marketplace from vRops and install it. Once you've installed it and pointed it to the right Cloud Director availability instance, it starts collecting the replication objects from the Cloud Director availability instance. So here in this case, you see that there is a VM replication object that I'm seeing here, which belongs to a VApp replication object, which in turn is connected to a given org VDC. So this tree is constructed so that by following the same model as last time, right? You create a pricing policy, you associate it with an org VDC, you generate a bill, you will now be able to charge for these objects called VM replication as well. Now, what can you charge for? You can charge for these replication objects in two different terms. One is, typically we've seen service providers charging for these replication objects on a per instance basis. For every replication object that exists, I want to charge $20, right? This is the kind of policy that they want to have. A qualified policy is for every replication object that exists belonging to a certain SLA profile, I want to charge $20. So if it is gold SLA profile replication object, I want to charge 20. If it is a silver SLA profile based replication object, I want to charge $15, let's say. This data about what are the replication objects, what are the SLA profiles that they adhere to are already being data collected. This was being data collected right from our last release of Tenant App 5 itself. So let me just show you the collected data here. Yeah. SLA profile. It's captured as a property. So you can see that this VM replication belongs to silver SLA profile, and the storage that is used by it is captured as a metric in vRops, right? So these are the two different attributes based on which you can charge for this replication object in Tenant App 2.6, or you can use the raw data based on these metrics. Now, when you go to Tenant App for this, let's go to configuration pricing policies again. When I say pricing policy, we now have another section for Cloud Director availability. Using the section, you can charge for your storage profile based per instance charge for the replication object. So in my case, I will say if it is silver, charge a monthly fee of $50. So this applies on a per instance basis, and I go ahead and add it, right? Now, for the actual consumed storage, they are charged based on the storage policy that these replication objects adhere to. So you can do the charging just like you would do for any other storage object, such as an independent disk. Specifically in this release, Tenant App 2.6, one of the intricacies is every replication object is also represented by a corresponding independent disk in vCloud Director. So your storage charges will appear on this independent disk, whereas the SLA profile-based charge will directly appear on the replication object itself. Going forward, we intend to bring these charges together under a single object so that there is no confusion. We also intend to enhance it so that the user can choose a combination of these two, right? So he can say that I only want to charge for this. I also want to charge for storage consumed, or multiple different combinations of this. So in the current release, what you can do is you will be able to charge for both of them using the storage section as well as the Cloud Director availability section. So show you a simple build on how this appears.
So the independent disk is what's used to replicate to. And the storage profile is the level of service, the RPO, the number of inputs, that type of thing, right?
Correct. Yes, that is correct. So this replications build. So this one is configured only with replication policy based charges. And you can see that there are several different replications here. And the replication that we were looking at is being charged $45 based on the pricing policy that I had configured a while ago. This bills, the bills are generated for a prior period in time. So you do not see the full charges here, but they basically honor the pricing policy that you've created. And those are the charges that appear. The charge for the used storage itself would appear as part of the independent disks, one of the independent disks that will appear here. Here in this configuration, I have not configured any storage usage-based charges, so that's why you see 0 charges here. But if you were to configure the usage-based charges for storage, they would actually appear here.
So sorry, Data, I saw in your policy, I saw the ability to put a charge on a storage policy used. I didn't see where to configure a storage, an independent disk charge.
Oh, it's not exclusive to independent disks. When you decide a storage policy and say for any storage that is consumed from, let's say, backup enabled storage policy. That's a storage policy that you will created, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for any storage that is consumed from the storage policy, charge at the rate of 2 cents per GB. That applies to all the storage elements such as media and template files, independent disks, VMs. Regardless of who is using storage from the storage profile, they will be charged accordingly.
Okay, I'm just so there is a separate storage section here that is for other stuff that isn't media template and independent disk related, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay, got it.
All right. So that's related to Cloud Director availability charging. The other two items, I don't have any demo to show as such because those are soft factors, more towards the granularity of the billing. But like I was mentioning, as we expand our services, we also have to go deep and start including many of the granular charges. So what I can show here is now you will have a new option when you are creating pricing policies to configure for, to charge for either used storage or the configured storage under the storage section. So that's storage-based bill. Let me go to storage section. Here, for every storage policy, when you're charging a VM, you can say that I want to charge for usage, which is basically the actual consumed storage, or limit, which is basically the configured storage. So if a VM is configured with, let's say, 20 GB disk space, and it's consuming only 5 GB out of it, selecting limit here would charge for 20 GB. Selecting usage here would charge for 5 GB, which is the actual consumed storage by that virtual machine. Right, that was one. And the last piece that was there in our feature list was granular charging. So these are for ephemeral VMs. As we move towards, let's say, the container-based world, where pod VMs can come and go very quickly, this feature basically acts as a value add there, where VMs that are created and deleted even within a span of 5 minutes are included in your pricing policy. This was earlier 24 hours, which we have brought down now to 5-minute granularity in Tenant App 2.6.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's going to really help monetize the Kubernetes as a service.
Yep. This is a step in that direction.
Okay, brilliant. Is there any improvements? Sorry, I'm going a bit of code. That's on your line. Is there any improvements to the dashboards in terms of ability to add new dashboards or customized dashboards?
Right. That's a very highly desirable line item on our list. What we did in our previous release is added this capability called tenant reports. Now, what this does is you can create report templates in vRops, and then you can say, I want to expose this specific report template to my tenants. So if you were to create any customized content, such as, let's say, optimization report for your VMs. So you could say that here is the list of VMs that are undersized and require additional CPUs. By looking at their performance, they may require additional CPUs, otherwise they will suffer. Now, this is a custom report that you can create in vRops using the analysis engine that is there in vRops, and it creates additional metrics to say so. And you can expose it to your tenants. The idea is service providers will be able to monetize these things, right? For every custom report that I create for you as a tenant, I'll charge you a $10 fee on a month-on-month basis, which you can charge using our pricing policies. That's the idea. On similar lines, what we want to extend this feature as to be able to show these dashboards as well. Today, these dashboards are fairly static. You cannot customize these dashboards that are present in Tenant App, and this is the list of dashboards that are available. There's no additional dashboard that a service provider can construct. So as you can see, as a logical extension of what we have done for reports, we also want to do dashboards. It's a matter of time before this starts appearing in our product.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I think some of the out-the-box reports that come with vRealize operations. Sorry, Dottie, can you go on mute for a second? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, guys.
No worries. I think some of the out-the-box. Still getting the echo.
Oh, there's an echo.
Yeah. There you go. That's better. I think some of the out-of-the-box reports that you can publish to the dashboard as I get their hot links, right, Jorg? They link into a downloadable report. Usually, is that right?
Yeah. So the reports that show up in the tenant report section that you can publish there, these reports you can download. There's a separate tab for the generated reports, and they can download them either as PDF file or the raw data as CSV file. And the content of these reports, they will of course come from vRealize operations. And when you define custom reports in vRealize operations, they use the same components, the same widgets as you would have in custom dashboards. So it's sort of a downloadable way to use the dashboard functionality. But just as a reminder, and I think we have covered that in earlier Feature Fridays as well, when you have dashboards in vRealize operations, you can create some unique URLs with the dashboard sharing capabilities in VROps itself. So that's sort of a solution that is already available for you as a provider to provide these unique links for the reports, or of course you can use what data is showing here, the reports capabilities, where you add components to the reports, and these components are views and parts, or the same components that would go into a custom dashboard.
So this is really powerful. I mean, you can significantly up your game as a provider by, I mean, Data mentioned one really useful one, which is understanding underused or overused capacity. Always being able to right size your cloud and your environment is something that lots of customers would like as default, right? Whether a service provider gives it to them for free or not, it's a different matter, but it's a significant value differentiator, I think, for providers to be able to do this level of really in-depth and vRealize operations capable, auto-generated reports.
Yeah, that, and especially the fact that vRealize operations, of course, has not only access to the virtual machine data from vCenter and Cloud Director, but it also could access, well, the physical devices, network devices, and so on. So you can create reports and dashboards with data that is much more visible, or shows much more data of the whole runtime environment of a virtual machine or a workload, and add the true visibility suite that we have for vRealize operations to get some more application awareness, or perhaps some even, I don't know, load balancer information from network sections and so on. So you can really add some additional monitoring capabilities as a service to your tenants with
Brilliant.
These features.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You've got my head kind of buzzing now about how you could pull in, for example, like VxRail, VCF kind of footprints, and really provide some very nice reporting capabilities. Okay, just one more quick question. When we're looking at those type of environments and pulling in more data, perhaps like on a per OSI model in vRealize operations, like a network switch, for example, a physical switch, is that's something that would be available? Would it be available to charge back to be able to run some algorithms against based on perhaps metadata associated with an edge device, maybe, or however it's been configured?
So for that, the metadata-based pricing in the Tenant App is based either on BCD metadata or tags in vCenter. So that is available no matter what vRealize operations license level you have as a provider. However, for all the more detailed information and everything that you need access to the vRealize operations UI that is currently shown, that's where you need to level up the vRealize operations license level.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And we do have, I think, in the latest version of the product usage guide, we do have a pretty extensive table that explains which capabilities you need, what level of vRealize operations license for.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, Data, any kind of final words from yourself around 2.6 and maybe a glimpse into where the priorities lie for 2.7, if there is a 2.7?
Yeah, sure. So there are, on 2.6, as you saw, our primary focus was to expand on the pricing capabilities for the data that we were already collecting about vCloud Director services. Some of the immediate next priorities for us is to start dwelling deep into NSX-T, right? This is one area that several providers have asked us for. While we have started with simple data transfer, we want to be able to do more value-added services that service providers offer on top of networks, such as the load balancers, the firewall, the VPNs that you can create on top of these network edges. So we want them to be able to measure and charge for these services. That is immediately very high on our priority list. Apart from the others that we spoke about during our conversation, which is dashboard simplification, customization of dashboards for tenants, and so on. We also have two architecture level items in front of us. We are launching a limited Tenant App SaaS service beta, which works with Cloud Director service and provides the same metering and charging capabilities. In fact, a limited beta is already in progress. It will be available to much larger set of customers as we go through this year by Q3. The other major item in terms of architecture is we intend to make Tenant App an inherent part of vRops. We saw this picture where there is a vRops virtual appliance, there is a Tenant App virtual appliance, those two are separate. You still have to manage and monitor both of these virtual appliances from a deployment perspective, right? We want to reduce that overhead and make Tenant App kind of a true extension to vRops by making it part of the vRops virtual appliance itself, while maintaining the same functions and capabilities that it has today. That's another major piece that we are working towards. And I think those are the ones that you will see coming forward as we talk about the next release.
Awesome, awesome. Very pleased to see the dashboards, and obviously, you know, the SaaS ask has been a big ask from the Cloud Director service piece as well. So it's brilliant to see it go in this direction, Data. Thank you very much. Jörg, any final words from yourself?
Yeah, so when you have a look at the all the different features that we've seen for the pricing policies, Data mentioned that we do have a white paper that we are publishing on our blogs, typically in step with the different releases. And this white paper has some, a lot of details about which individual metrics are used based on which selections for the pricing policies. So that helps to understand the results of the individual build runs. And it also has some examples how to use the Tenant App API to programmatically access the bill information from the generated bills to feed that into some downstream billing systems. And we also on code.vmware.com on the sample exchange, we have a Postman collection that has a lot of different API call examples for the bills and even to get the raw utilization data from vRealize operations. So that's absolutely something to have a look at when you work with the Tenant App. And then, Guy, I think we discovered a new topic for another Feature Friday eventually in future to do this more focused on the monitoring as a service piece.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we'll be definitely following that one up. And yeah, just to reconfirm that the white paper is available on our vcpp.cloud site, our cloud solutions site, that is. Also, you can get to it from the blog. You can also get to it from the product page, either VCD or Cloud Director availability. I've posted in both locations. This is definitely a case for read the manual. You know, you want to make sure you're understanding how these builds are being constructed, and certainly we've seen a lot of questions from providers in the past, you know, not always sure why they're getting a different number out than they should be, or that they think they should be, but actually, you know, reading the manual is very important in this respect, because it does enlighten you on how these things are being constructed as well. So thank you, Jorgen and Data, for that as well. Guys, as usual, it's great to have you on. Thank you so much for the preparation in building a demo environment for us, Data, and Jorg, thank you very much for coming on and giving giving us your insight into Tenant App as well. Take care, guys.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.